Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Movies with Moira and Shannon.
We're back.
Yes, we're back. It's been a hot minute and mostly my fault.
Hey.
We had a show scheduled in I want to say May or June.
Yeah.
And then, I've gotten sick and been better and gotten sick and been better and then you got to go to Scotland.
I went to Scotland to visit family and our big fan in Scotland, my cousin Andy. We're international.
Yes.
And it was nice to reconnect with my aunts and uncles there and some cousins that I hadn't met before, and so it was a nice trip.
And next it's my turn.
And next it's
I'm
your
going
turn
to Scotland.
And I can tell you the best fish and chips in Scotland. The wee chippy, and it's spelled Ainstruther, but the way they pronounce it in Scotland is Ainster. So you got to go to Ainster.
So lost.
And the wee chippy.
And the wee chippy. Okay. All right. I got to get all of these things. You've given me some other tips that I've added to the agenda. But today we're here and we've got a bunch of different movies that we're going to be talking about. Want to make sure that everybody knows we are live right now. It is Monday, July 15th. I'm giving a shout out to my husband. Today is our 22nd wedding anniversary.
Oh, happy
Isn't that
anniversary.
amazing? Lucky number 22. And it feels like a long weekend.
Yeah.
And I never thought, I have to be honest, it wasn't on my agenda when I was a young woman. I wasn't looking to, I can't wait to get married. I know a lot of people are like, I wasn't planning on having children.
Yep.
I was like career. And I had things I wanted to do. And so that just wasn't, it was there if I met the right person.
Right.
But then, I didn't meet him until I was in my late 30s, and the first time we met, it didn't work out. He didn't even notice me, but I didn't like him. We were doing a play together, and I was like, you know what it was? I was like, he's such a nice guy. And did you have that phase where it was like, oh, he's a nice guy?
Yes, and I had a very rom-com type of meet cute with my husband, and I was the same. I was not interested in being married. Didn't see myself having kids.
Right.
And then I met the mailroom guy at work, and he was adorable. And our first conversation was about music and a movie. So yeah, it was fated. But yeah, I came home talking about the annoying mailroom guy.
Right.
And then, a month or two later, here I am dating him, and my roommate's like, "This is the same annoying mailroom guy?" And I'm like,
I have a similar thing that because I would come home, we were doing this play, and I would come home and complain about him and everybody else. I was mad at everybody, as I frequently am, if you know me. But anyway, and then we didn't see each other for 10 years after that. And then re-met, fell in love, got engaged, and my roommate from way back when came and said, I got to meet this guy. And I said, yeah, but you know him. He's the guy. She is a writer. She had written a musical about a girl doing the show that I was doing, and the guy who was miserable. And she's like, I can't believe that you're marrying that guy. That one. Really? You're marrying that guy? And I did, and it's 22 years later.
Sometimes life is like a rom-com.
Right? And we're going to talk about rom-coms today. But anyway, we're saying good morning to Autism Journey with Elijah. I hope you guys got home okay. They drove all the way from Arizona to be here at Universal on Saturday night for the Autism Rocks concert.
Oh, I saw pictures from that. It looked amazing.
And I was there for about 45 minutes. It was the Saturday before our anniversary. We had dinner plans, but Alex Lynn, who's the arranger, producer, promoter, always does it that weekend. And I'm like, Alex, it's not convenient for me. Stop it. But because this family was coming all the way from Arizona, and because Alex comes all the way from Taiwan, I was like, we have to go over for 40 minutes or so. And I got to meet the wonderful Elijah, and what a sweetheart.
Aww.
And we danced, and they drove home right into the monsoon. Well, are you okay?
Yes.
I think is the biggest question.
I'm assuming they've got internet and they're home safe now.
Yes, I hope so. I didn't even know that there was a monsoon, but this little boy, what a sweetie, and we danced and everything, and there was a lot sensory-wise that was going on, but one of the things that every once in a while he would say, I want merchandise. And we just would laugh. It was just the funniest thing. So, but Mom reports that he did get his merchandise, LOL. So I'm very happy, and they are safe at home. So it was such a thrill to meet you guys in person. I always love to meet viewers in person because it's so much fun. And the performers, for what I was there, the performers were top notch, my goodness, at the concert.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Fabulous.
I would say a good solid 50% of them were performers that identify as being on the spectrum. So, you know,
excellent.
good for Alex that, and I hope that everybody had a good time. We had to bail after a very little while, but I saw some pictures later on. I saw that Danny Bowman was there. I didn't get to see her when I was there.
Yeah, I did see her on somebody's Facebook feed.
But I hope, I don't know if you guys got to meet Danny because she's amazing, but they said it was great. It was, anyway, so we are live right now, and you can participate just like I'm participating with Autism Journey with Elijah by writing in either on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We always love your opinions and your questions and your requests for things to review. We've been waiting for so long to review Ezra.
Yeah, that's
and we're
on
gonna
our
get
list.
to it. Yeah, we're going to get to it here in just.
Hi, Huma.
Hi, Huma. So thrilled that you're here with us.
Yeah.
And please feel free to write in about anything. You know, we talk about movies, but we are both moms that have kiddos that are
with special needs or neurodiverse, whatever.
Right, and
label.
so we always ask for an update from you from TACA.
Regarding TACA, TACA is having our in-person conference in October. It is down in Costa Mesa. If you register for the in-person conference, you will also have access to the recordings after. There is also, I believe, a ticket just for the recording. So if you cannot make your way out to Southern California, it would be great. We would love to see you. It's a wonderful event. But at least you will still have an ability to learn a bit more about things you can do to help your kiddos. And actually, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to announce about stuff, but I think we're going to have some really cool events happening while we're there. Okay, cool. So it could be really neat.
I always wait to hear the keynote because it's always somebody amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that yet. So.
Okay, but you already know. Yeah, I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
I would not say.
Yeah, so, and then the question you had asked me, you texted me, was a parent asking about how do you find out about leaky gut? What kind of tests can there be for leaky gut? If you go onto our website, takanow.org, and if you go into the little search feature, it looks like a little magnifying glass. You click on that, just type the word leaky gut, 2 words, leaky gut, and there's a fabulous article about medical interventions, and it is based on kind of like, okay, my kid has a problem with speech, and then there's all these different things that, and in addition to obviously traditional speech therapy and different things that can help, there may be some medical things that you can address that could help your kiddo. Okay. So this article is fantastic, and it's kind of the hub for a lot of the medical interventions that are available. And again, you work with your doctor, usually a functional medical doctor or what they call a MAPS doctor, a Medical Academy of Pediatric Special Needs. These folks are the people that can help with issues like leaky gut or nutritional deficiencies or things like that. And those things are very helpful in making our kids feel better and maybe focus better. So it all is a part of the grand big picture, because as we know, there are a lot of co-occurring conditions that are higher within the autism population than the general population. So, and one of those things is gut issues. So,
absolutely.
So then our conference will deal a lot with that as well. So.
Okay, Huma, you wrote in a question, but I'm going to need some more clarification. You say, I'm confused, kindly solve, but I'm confused. She says, applied behavior analysis, ABA, test used for A, assessment, B, management, C, behavior, D, analysis. I'm confused, kindly solve this. Can you specify a little, do you know what she means?
I don't, but it sounds like she's wondering, I'm assuming sorry Huma if I'm wrong, that what you do to assess and manage and the behavior, because the behavior analysis they're really looking for the antecedent, like what is functioning, or the function of the behavior and all that. And ABA agency and a trained ABA therapist should be able to assess what the needs are. I mean, I'm not sure if that's an answer.
Well, and you say test used for, I'm wondering if what you're talking about is there are many different tests, right? Mm-hmm. But there's what they call the FBA, the functional
behavioral assessment.
Yeah. That might be the thing that you're looking for. There is also, because I know we talk about it a lot on the show, there's, in skills, there's something called the CIFA, which is the card indirect functional assessment, which a parent can take.
Nice.
And so when you go into skills, you look for the CIFA, and basically it takes, and it's all been vetted to see that it's really effective. They did research on it and published on it, but you answer a bunch of questions, and then it will tell you what the likely function of the behavior is.
Oh, that is fantastic.
It is pretty good.
We love that.
And a parent can do that.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's the one that you're talking about, but write back in and tell us. We can, even in between movies, we can talk about that.
We'll try to help you out.
Okay. And Autism Journey with Elijah says, we know all too well about lift issues. Eli takes probiotic meds if needed. Yes. I'm about to start a new probiotic. It's a thing.
It's a thing. You've got to take care of the gut health.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I don't think I mentioned, but as I said, you can be writing in like everybody is doing so far on Facebook, but you can also be writing in on YouTube and Twitter. I don't know if Chris already put up all the things about, he did, but I want you guys to know that we hope, most of you are listening to us in podcasts. We know that that's the lion's share of our audience, although we hope that you will go over and check out the videos that are in YouTube so that you can see the fabulous shoes that we're wearing today.
Yes, my very comfy shoes.
There you go. and mine from Temu. These are Temu shoes. They were like $4. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But I want to remind all of you that when you listen in podcasts, there will be ads that play. I hope you embrace that, because that's what makes it a free download for you.
Yes.
So when you hear the ads, you go, woohoo, you paid for me to listen to this. But for some of you who are engaged in other things and you're like, I really would like to have it with no ads, you can for a small monthly fee if you go to glow.fm/autism-live. And when you pay $5 a month, it's actually cheaper if you pay for it across for a year at a time.
Yeah.
But $5 a month, if you do it monthly, you get everything that the Autism Network does ad-free.
Ad-free.
Which means you get Let's Talk Movies, you get our newest podcast, which is Today's Hyperfixation.
Oh, great.
Which, love that. That's hosted by Atticus Jackson. It means you get all the Ask Dr. Doreen's, all the parent-to-parents, all the Autism Live, you get all of it with no ads. So
fabulous.
Check that out. Okay. We have so much to talk about. We're gonna jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So because it's been and we had to pick and choose. There were movies that we couldn't talk about because we just didn't think we had enough time.
Yep.
So let's plow right in, shall we?
All right, and we're starting with the rom-com right off the top called Family Affair. It's on Netflix. It's directed by Richard L. Grevenesi. Writer is Carrie Solomon. Of course, it's starring Nicole Kidman, Joey King, Zac Efron, and Kathy Bates. So Efron plays Chris, a megastar who's an action-adventure star, and Joey King plays his assistant, Zara, who is living the life of a lot of personal assistants to the stars, having to be available 24/7 to an insecure narcissist, all the while hoping they will be the stepping stone to her dream job. So we have that as the setup. Circumstances bring Chris in contact with Zara's mother, played by the beautiful Nicole Kidman. After a bunch of tequila, the two hop into bed together, and that seemed to only be a device for comedic moment for Zara to walk in on them. You know, when the film started, I wondered how they were going to redeem Efron's character, because he was not likable.
Right.
And he played it a lot for laughs. He's really spoiled. He's out of touch. You know, Hollywood star. And all of a sudden, we are expected to shift gears, root for him and Kidman. And even with the charming Efron, that was a hard lift. I don't think he succeeded. I don't think it was possible to bridge that gap. And I really wanted to like this. I really did. I liked all the players, but ultimately the chemistry between the two of them was not really there. Joey King tried her best. Oh my goodness, you were amazed. Oh, they were all great, but she really did push the frantic, harried performance to try to pull it all together. And I felt like Kidman and Efron had way better chemistry in The Paperboy, which is a weird film they did a few years back. But it just felt really by the numbers. And even with all this wonderful star power, I just felt like, wow, we missed the mark here. What do you think?
You know, I think I have a different criteria for romance movies because I watch so many of them, and it's like I don't expect them to be Dickens. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so I think I have a different litmus test for romance movies, and that's I want to believe that there's something between them, and I did. So while I wouldn't nominate this for any awards, I quite enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it.
I really did. Now, I would watch Joey King read the phone book.
Well, all of these folks, I'm like, oh, they're in it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know,
one of the things that we're not reviewing today, but I'm saying to people, but go watch it, is We Were the Lucky Ones with Joey King. She is an up and coming.
She's one to watch.
And not only that, I have a personal pull for her because she and her sister, from the time they were little, have supported autism. They were on every red carpet for Autism Care Today. We gave her an award for All Girls Gala a couple of years ago. I mean, she was little, and she would be on the red carpet, and she would be there with her sister, who's on all the Hallmark movies now. She's delightful on the Hallmark movies. But they would be there, and she, this is before, when they were just starting out, and nobody knew their names, but they would be there saying, "We have friends who are on the spectrum and we love them, so of course we're here to support them." So, and she's a really amazing actress.
She's got a heck of a range because I don't know if you saw, the one with, I can't remember it now, it's gone. It was based on a true crime, and she played a victim of Munchausen by proxy.
Oh, I haven't seen
that.
Yeah,
that one was with, somebody will tell me, Patricia Arquette played her mother. And then she was also in a movie I did not see called The Radium Girls, and it was about that time in history I was very interested in seeing. So she's amazing. She's
a working
incredible.
actress.
I'm very impressed with this young lady.
And I love Zac Efron, and I have to say I've been a little worried about Zac because of the whole thing.
Yeah, he got into an accident or something?
Well, yes, and then he had bulked up for that movie, The Iron Claw, which if you see that movie, he's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Like you're like, where is Zac, and is he ever going to be able to be him again? So I loved seeing him, he's still beefy, but he doesn't look like he's roided out, where in that movie he did.
Right.
So, and we'd heard some reports on the set of him, kind of being quixotic. So I enjoyed seeing this. I enjoy a movie where and we're going to talk about the other one, because there are two movies that are very kind of similar.
Yeah.
And I enjoy, it's...
Thank you. It was The Act. Thank you. Autism Journey with Elijah. Great film. The Act. Anyway, that was
we love
the
it.
one I was
we
talking
love
about.
that movie.
True crime.
Yeah. But... what's not to like about a hot, young, beefy actor falls in love with a woman who's a little bit older. Who's not necessarily looking for that. I don't mind that plot.
I love that plot.
Right? I don't have a problem with that. What's not to like? And I'll tell you what I really loved about this one. It's like you got all these things you got to dial up and down. I love that he was a little bit older in this one, so I didn't have an issue with the age difference, and I loved Kathy Bates in this.
Oh, yes.
You need the foil of the person that somebody can talk to say what they're feeling,
right?
And Kathy Bates delivered on that.
Oh, she's fabulous.
Because she can't be anything but fabulous.
Yep.
So I was fine with it. I mean, I just don't think that it's like There was one moment in this movie that made me laugh so hard that I fell off the couch.
Oh, okay.
I literally fell off the couch. And my husband had just walked in the door when it happened, and I laughed so loud and so hard, I rocked off the couch. So I liked it.
Oh, I think you liked it a little better than me, but that's okay. So. All right.
But I think my bar is set lower than you.
Okay, the next one is called The Idea of You, and this one was directed by Michael Showalter. The writers were Robin, is it just, I guess it's just Robin. Robin Lee, Michael Showalter, and Jennifer Westfeldt, starring Anne Hathaway, Nicholas Galitzine, and Emma Rubin. And this came out about a month before the affair, and everything missing in the affair, I feel, was here in this film. A similar theme, hot mom dates younger hot megastar, right? In this case, it's a rock star. Now, Anne Hathaway plays Solène, a gallery owner who has a meet cute at Coachella with Nicholas Galitzine, who plays superstar Hayes Campbell from the boys band August Moon. She doesn't recognize him, and she thinks his trailer is just like a, albeit fancy, porta potty at Coachella. So she's a little confused, and that's cute. You know, a little suspension of disbelief of how she doesn't recognize the guy that was probably plastered all over her teenage daughter's room. But that's okay, we'll let that go. And Hathaway's daughter, Izzy, played by Ella Rubin, or is it Ella or Emma? I apologize either way. She's 14 in high school, and somehow mom and rock star don't seem to anticipate the media storm that they're dating is going to cause another little suspension of disbelief. It's like they don't know about this thing we call the internet, you know? And whatever, that's okay. It did a good job of making you feel the dizzying sparks of the beginning of a relationship, which is what I always like about a romance. I want to feel that feeling of falling in love, the first kiss and the, excitement of it. And they seem to connect as a couple. I felt there was definitely chemistry. Of course, complications arise, and the paparazzi are stalking them, making it difficult for everybody involved. I felt this film had heat and heart. It kind of followed a rom-com tradition, but there's more rom than com. Whereas I think with the other one, there was more com than rom, you know? And I think that it's a really difficult balance with romantic comedy, and when it's done well, it's like, wow, you know? The emotional beats were lovely, the leads were likable, and it just seemed believable to me. And they seemed to make mature decisions, which I liked, you know? So, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I was okay with this one too. If I had to pick between the two, I liked Family Affair better.
Really? Okay.
I felt like there were some things that were a little bit pushed in this one in terms of, like you said, these, you know, the believability that she doesn't know who he is.
She doesn't know who he is,
and yet her daughter. The differences between the two of them is that the age difference is a much bigger character in this film because of some of the circumstances that are built into the writing of it, that the daughter is still a teenager and still in school, and so there's a consideration of what is this doing to her life.
Right.
And in this one, he's much younger.
Well, yes, and apparently they pushed the age a little, because in the book that this is based on, he was 20, which I'm like, in this he's 24.
Yeah.
But it is Anne Hathaway, so you're kind of like.
And I love Anne Hathaway. I would watch Anne Hathaway read the phone book. I love her, and she looks significantly younger. Like, I bought that he thought that she was younger. But here, in both of them, my question always is, what are they attracted to each other about?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What is the attraction? And I felt like between Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman, that it was, I didn't have to question it. I saw what it was that they saw in each other that other people didn't. But in this one, I was like, you know, why is he attracted to her, and why is she attracted to him? And I had a much harder time with it. Now, he is a hot young man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But, you know, and he's been around the world, but he doesn't have a lot of worldliness. So I just, and I felt that it was a little surface, that, you know, there's a point when she goes out on the road with him, and I felt it was more about her, I'm not going to be somebody that my husband dumped me, then I'm into him. So that was harder for me. Okay. But, you know, ultimately I liked it. I wasn't thrilled with, I wasn't thrilled with some of the decisions that they made that you felt like were very adult decisions.
Yeah. Because and apparently, well, I never read the book, but apparently it ends differently in the movie than the book.
I probably like that better.
You might. You might. But I don't know. I felt kind of the opposite. That's so interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
But I was fine. I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
I sat and watched it, and I was like, and Nicholas, do we say it Galitzine?
Galitzine.
I mean, he is the hot new up and coming. He's in absolutely everything, and I don't know if you guys watched him in Red, White, and Blue.
Red, White, and Royal Blue. Yes.
And he's in so
fabulous.
many movies, and I do think that he's very adept at making it seem like he's very into the person that he's with.
Right.
I think he knows how to sell that.
Right.
I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I think whoever is managing him is paying attention and has got him on a career path for him to be like the next Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
Yeah.
I'm thinking so.
So, and I think he probably can pull it off. So there we go. Okay, what's our next?
What's next? Hacks.
Oof,
Hacks season 3.
Yeah.
Now, I was incredibly worried about Hacks being renewed for season 3 because I felt like season 2 ended perfectly.
I thought it was done.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
And I thought, don't do any more. It's fine. I thought they're just going to retread, old things. Often things get greenlit, as we know, because they're popular and people want to cash in on it more. And, and it's not always the right thing.
Yeah.
This, however, I can say I'm glad I was very, very, very wrong.
Yep.
Because season 3 is fantastic, and now I can't wait for season 4.
Yeah.
I'm shocked because it's once again we're focusing on Hannah Einbender is writer Ava, and Jean Smart is the comedy legend and QVC magnate Deborah Vance. The creators are Lucinda Amelio, Paul Downs, and Jen Sitsky. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing things. Of course, Jean Smart, Hannah Einbender, Carl Clemens Hopkins, Paul W. Downs is in it, Megan Stalter, Christopher McDonald, Caitlin Olsen. Fabulous cast, fabulous writing. Yeah. I love the rapport between Einbender and Smart. They get each other, and they snipe at each other, and they did in the first 2 seasons, but at the end they really are trying to have each other's backs in a very weirdly selfish world of showbiz. And it's like this explores that relationship, and I don't want to give anything away, but you have to see it. There's a great cameo by now I heard Mad About You, Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt it plays a really tough pickleball player, so that's always fun. Yeah. But it's I can't speak highly enough about it. I really feel like it's such a good series, and it's nice to see women in a friendship relationship, but also a professional relationship. We get to see more about Jean Smart's character Deborah and the kind of havoc she's wreaked upon her life, and the pieces that she's kind of not acknowledging that are her responsibility. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's some of the best writing that there is on television.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize before that Paul Downs, who's in it was one of the original creators and is one of the writers, he and his wife.
Now, Paul Downs is
he's the one who plays the agent.
Oh, I love him.
And he's the creator. He and his wife are creators with another person and writers.
Oh,
so they are the people who are behind that. And I didn't realize that until this season, because I looked it up. I was like, who are the writers? These writers are just really, really intelligent. Now, I will say that my husband always says that the problem with Hacks and the problem with Mrs. Maisel is that the writing is so good, except when they're doing
for
stand-up.
the comedy. Yeah.
And it got a little bit better this season, a little bit, and I noted that. But I just think the word is out. I think each season it's gotten better, and it's shocking how much better it gets. And it makes me think about so many things and about what it is to be a woman.
And your feeling of self-worth. and where that comes from as a woman and in an industry that is predominantly male.
Yes.
What that means to you to be living in that space and be successful.
And what you have to do that. And I will tell you that because of this season, and previously on the screen, for those of you who are listening to us in podcasts, we do, there's a screen there that says who the creators and the writers and the directors are, but I didn't used to put the writers on.
Yeah.
I didn't used to put the writers on, and I started putting the writers on because I want us all to note who's who and who's doing what and how few females there are.
Yes.
And that there is a thing this month that I noticed that when you have a director and you have a writer, if it's male and male, then there is the director and the writer. But often, if there is a director and it's male, you have the female writer, but the director gets a writing credit too. And we don't see that when it's male. So I'm just starting to put that in so that we're all taking
kind
note.
Of aware of it.
And being aware. But I think that this show is really, it like vibrates in me and makes me think all kinds of things and recognize all kinds of things. And it's very interesting because you have the woman who is should be the end of her career. She's, significantly up there in years and has been through so much. And her prejudice is about how this is going to go. But then you have this new, young, up-and-coming young woman who's trying to figure out and negotiate it and feels like she's come into a world where it is going to be better and that she's got control of it. And it's just fascinating to watch. It's almost, I really feel like it's as good as The West Wing in terms of writing.
It is stellar. And like I said, I really was against season 3. And I cannot believe.
It's shockingly
I can't
good.
believe how they pulled this off.
Yeah.
They've
reinvented. Sometimes people have their freshman show.
Yes.
And it's like, it's got a hook and it's great. And then their sophomore season, they fall apart.
Yeah, sophomore slump.
And then we have The Bear, where I feel like the first season was okay, but they found their stride in 3. But the third season defines a series.
Yeah.
And Hacks, woo.
Yep. If you haven't seen it, see it.
It's good.
It's worth it.
It's really good.
All right, next
We're
up
here at Ezra.
is Ezra. Now, Ezra stars Bobby Cannavale, or is it Cannavale?
We have arguments about that.
We have
I don't
arguments
know.
about this. Sorry, Bobby. And Robert De Niro, Rose Byrne. It's directed by Tony Goldwyn. The writer is Tony Spiridakis, but also I believe Tony Goldwyn gets a writing credit as well. Whatever.
I don't know.
I don't know.
IMDb it said this, so
it said
that's what I
just
put
Tony
there.
Spiridakis, and I apologize for butchering names. It introduces William A. Fitzgerald as the title character of Ezra. Of course, Tony Goldwyn is in it as well as directing it. Vera Farmiga, Whoopi Goldberg, Rainn Wilson, Alex Plank. Great cast.
Yeah.
Unbelievably great cast. So Bobby Cannavale plays Max. And he is the dad to Ezra. Ezra is on the autism spectrum, and Max and Rose Byrne, playing the ex-wife Jenna, are trying to co-parent. Cannavale is living with his father, played by De Niro, and is pursuing a career as a stand-up comedian. Rose Byrne's character has moved on romantically, and her new love is played by Tony Goldwyn. Max gets a career-changing chance to be on Jimmy Kimmel, but it comes at a crisis moment for Ezra. There are challenges with deciding what the best placement/supports would be for Ezra, and because Max disagrees with some suggested options, he makes a very impulsive choice to take Ezra and essentially kidnap him on a cross-country tour to get to the Jimmy Kimmel show. Now we're in a road trip. Yeah. And of course, we see the bond between the father and son strengthen, and we meet quirky characters along the way, like Rainn Wilson, Whoopi Goldberg. Well, Whoopi Goldberg plays the agent that's calling him as he's on the road to try to make sure he gets it there, and Vera Farmiga shows up as well. Now, I can't say enough about William Fitzgerald. I thought he was just amazing. He held his own in scenes opposite Robert De Niro.
Yes, he did.
And I was like, if there's ever an argument for diversity, inclusion, hey, can these kids handle this?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, my friend, they can. He was fabulous.
Yeah.
And I love that they cast him, and you know, that was just amazing. There's some things on the road trip, some moments where Ezra kind of overcomes things that I was like, you know, so there's things about it that are a little too neat and tidy.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked how nobody was a villain in this. Tony Goldwyn's character makes some mistakes as the new love interest for the mom, but everybody's trying to pull together, but everybody has a different idea about what is right for this young man, you know. And I liked that exploration because I feel like that is very true in any family dynamic. Everybody's got this should go this way, this should go that way. Everybody's got expectations and challenges, but overall I liked it. I felt like the comedy was a little better than maybe some of the other stuff with hacks. Like you mentioned about that's where it kind of falls down sometimes when you have a comedian, and I thought that went pretty okay. I don't know, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I really want to urge everybody to go see this.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing that I'm going to say here, because there's some really important things that are about this movie, like the fact that it was authentically cast by a young actor who's on the spectrum, like the fact that he gives an amazing performance, like the fact that the cast is incredible and they all deliver. There's not a single character in this movie that doesn't deliver. Robert De Niro's wonderful. Bobby Cannavale, I think, should get nominated. He's got one scene that absolutely, you know, I think it's the role of a lifetime for him. I've always loved him.
Me too.
You know, I think that Rose Byrne does a really great job with what she's given, which is next to nothing.
Yeah, she's not given much.
And I gotta say, you know, I think it's directed well because those performances are there. Where this falls apart for me is that the script is hapute. And let me be clear about that. And I deliver that all at the foot of the writer, and it's a shame that now it's not the whole thing, because there are parts in it where they overcome that to give these wonderful performances, but. I really hated the script, and there were just some like weak things in the script that just like unforgivable, and that's how I feel about it. But I will say that I think in terms of the portrayal, here's what they did really right, and I don't know how this movie came to be, except that I've seen interviews and the guy who wrote it that it's semi. You know, autobiographical.
Okay.
That he has a child on the spectrum and is no longer with the mom, and that, you know, but you know, he didn't ever kidnap his child. He said that very clearly. But felt like he was, as a dad, that he wasn't understanding what was happening and whatever. So I'm so dismissive. I want to see more stories from the dads. I absolutely want to see more stories from the dads, but I guess I would like them to be dads that are a little bit more knowledgeable and curious. And that's me personally saying that. But I feel like what they did right was that they had this script that had some good moments in it, and they decided to move forward. I don't know who got attached when and how that they did this, but you know, you get Robert De Niro in there, and of course Robert De Niro is going to love and want to be a part of making a film that's authentically representing somebody who's on the spectrum, and that what they did was they hired Alex Plank. And Alex Plank, we know he's been on the show many times and is a wonderful self-advocate. He was the creator of WrongPlanet.net. And they didn't just hire him to be the consultant on the film, they hired him to be an associate producer. So anything that has to do with that performer and the performance that he gave, and having it be authentically representing and making sure that on set it was the best possible scenario for that young man to be able to go toe-to-toe with Robert De Niro, is because they made that decision. And I want for us to like acknowledge and say, then we need to be doing more of that. I wish that somebody had just said, like asked a couple of questions about, is this how this would have gone? Would the child have been removed from the school for this? Because there's just some plot points that are just ridiculous. And I think that most autism parents I don't know, I was annoyed by it. And I was annoyed that here's this mom that clearly had done so much and was so marginalized in the film. That annoyed me.
Yeah.
But that's personal. But it's worth seeing. It's worth seeing the performances. It's especially seeing the performance of this amazing young man, and Bobby Cannavale's performance. Robert De Niro's performance is always good, of course, but Bobby Cannavale's performance, I think, probably should get some noms.
Yeah, no, he's long overdue to. Yeah, he's always good. I mean, I love
him.
People like that. They're like, oh, they're in it. They're going to be good.
And it's worth seeing, you guys. And it
Yes.
needs support. It's on demand now. Watch it. Okay.
Watch it.
Watch it.
All right. Next thing we're talking about is Argyle. Okay. Argyle is directed by Matthew Vaughn. The writer is Jason Fuchs, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Henry Cavill, John Cena, Catherine O'Hara, Chip.
Was the cat?
Oh!
I had to include the cat. The
cat
is a huge
Richard E.
character.
Grant, Dua Lipa, Ariana DeBose, Bryan Cranston.
I could have gone on.
Yeah, I know. It was a megawatt cast in terms of that. So here's where are we? It's an action adventure, and it stars, of course, Bryce Dallas Howard and the fabulous Sam Rockwell. Howard plays author Ellie Conway, who writes a series about her super spy, who's named Argyle. The sequences where her book comes to life are delightful. Henry Cavill plays this Argyle character in these fantasy sequence, and Dua Lipa is the femme fatale with whom he swaps bullets and snappy dialogue, and that all was a lot of fun and effervescent. Ellie is experiencing writer's block, and she takes a train to see her mom, the delightful Catherine O'Hara, so she can work out the final chapters of her book. On the train, she meets Aiden, played by the always fabulous Sam Rockwell, and mayhem ensues. Aiden is an actual super spy sent to protect Ellie. Ellie's books have been so predictive about what's going on in the world of espionage that now she's a target of several rogue nations for whatever she might be writing next. So the film started off really fun, and then it seemed to run out of steam. And I really liked the reveal that happens later that I do not want to spoil, because I thought that was really cool. But with such a star-studded cast, the rest of the film felt really flat, surprisingly. And Samuel L. Jackson is in it. And, they're underused. A lot of this stellar cast that you have is very underused. I found it fun but forgettable. Yeah. And it was one of those, I don't mind that I watched it as a streamer. I would have been a little more harsh on it had I paid to go see it in a movie theater, which is maybe mean of me. That's my scale is how much did I shell out, you know?
Yeah.
And it was part of the streamer that I already owned, so I was able to watch it. But I like Bryce Dallas Howard, but I can't say enough about Sam Rockwell. He's another one of those. Watch whatever film he's in, And I don't know I love Jojo Rabbit. And he was in that. There's a film of his I haven't seen yet called The Way, Way Back that looks amazing. It does from the trailer. So just for Sam Rockwell alone, and the cat, I like the cat.
The cat was good.
But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't wait to see this movie. I was so excited about this movie, and I always say that I love Sam Rockwell. But the problem is I don't always love Sam Rockwell, and I didn't love him in this.
Okay.
Because sometimes I think he gets very tongue-in-cheek, and he's and he's showing me that he's performing instead of just being.
Oh.
And I get exhausted with that, and I think I blame it on the director, because it's I think he's one of those actors
needs to be reined
Jim
in.
Carrey that you got to say, okay, you did your silly little thing, and now I need you to get to the meat of this and be real for a minute. And I think that Sam Rockwell is entirely capable of that, but left to run amok. And in a film like this, where there's a lot of it's almost like it wants to be, it's a mad, 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 mad world, but it
didn't quite gel.
It doesn't take itself serious enough. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like one of the problems is that I watched it, but I got bored in the middle. I really seriously got bored. And I feel like because when you get all of these guest stars coming in, if the director isn't strong enough to be like, here's the movie that we're making, here's the style that we're making, and this is what we need, you get like a bunch of different movies.
You get a bunch of points
of
view.
You get somebody doing vaudeville and and you got Bryce Dallas Howard trying to hold it down in some sort of reality, while Sam Rockwood is still playing
really large
Fosse. Yeah. I'm like, come on now. Like, you did that a long time ago. Stop playing Fosse. So I didn't love him in this. And it's hit or miss with me with him.
Is it?
And I really feel like, but it's not because he's not good. He's great.
He's very good.
But somebody needs to pull him in. So I got bored. I think it's one of those movies that if you've got, sometimes you're with people and they're really fun and they're big reactors, watch it with them. Then you'll have more fun.
You'll have more fun with it,
and maybe stop and have snacks in the middle because it does drag in the middle. I was bored. I couldn't wait for it to be over. That's my review. All
there
right.
we go.
There we
okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Next one up is Masters of the Air. This is creators John Sibhan, John Orloff, producers Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Austin Butler, Callum Turner, Anthony Boyle, Barry Keoghan. I always say his name a little odd. Sorry, Barry. This is brought to you by the same people that brought you Band of Brothers and The Pacific. It's got everything. Spielberg, Hanks, World War II dogfights, a Stalag full of hot young Hollywood actors. It's that kind of series. And I really, really wanted to love this, but I was surprised by how little it touched me. They should have grabbed me by the throat at the beginning and had me on the edge of my seat worrying about these brave pilots and their overwhelming task. Austin Butler plays Gail Buck Clevin, who's buddies with John Bucky Egan, played by Callum Turner. Both are part of the 100th Bomber Group that's endured so many losses they were known as the Bloody 100th. This is what I want from this type of show. I want to know about these unsung heroes of World War II. It was a monumental undertaking fighting the Nazis and the Luftwaffe, and we should have gotten to know them from the start and be invested in their stories. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work that way for me, and I was kind of shocked after each episode how little I was invested. And I watched it all the way through, and I'm glad I watched it, but I felt like there was something missing. And I feel like I can't talk about this without talking about Band of Brothers, because Band of Brothers was incredible. And what they tried to do a little bit of what they did in Band of Brothers with having like a voiceover from somebody that's obviously survived, right. Whereas in Band of Brothers, it was done in 2001, and they intercut with interviews of the actual soldiers, and they were all men at that time in their 60s or so. They couldn't do that now, of course, because we're 23 years later. But what was great about that in Band of Brothers as well is you didn't know who was talking. They didn't tell you, so you didn't know who was going to survive. Yeah. And that, I thought, was, an amazing choice, and I really enjoyed that. At the end of this series, they do provide pictures of the real guys and kind of acknowledging, obviously, they're a tremendous sacrifice. But I feel like, I feel like everything was drawn a little more clearly in Band of Brothers. I felt like I liked Austin Butler, but he just looks like a poster of a brave, patriotic pilot, and there isn't any more substance to his character than that. Plus, we meet his wife very briefly, and then she's gone. We don't know anything about that. And with such rich material to draw from, I'm sad that this left me flat. And it actually makes me want to read the books that this is based on, because I feel like I will really get what I wanted out of those. I felt like they just didn't, and I think I'm going to rewatch Band of Brothers, honestly, because it's such an amazing era in our history, and one. Yeah. I don't know. How did you feel about it? Were you sucked in?
Oh, I was sucked in.
Wow.
I was totally sucked in. But I haven't seen Band of Brothers. Because when it came out, I didn't have HBO, and I was getting pregnant, and all of those things. So I've never seen Band of Brothers, and that I love learning about this time period because I think it's an extraordinary time period. but I've never seen Band of Brothers. So I can't compare it to that, but I got sucked into this. And maybe it was different for me because my dad was Air Force. And so there was that part of the story that I had not seen in this way before. It was interesting because I'm always looking for where are the women in the film, because there were women. Come on, there were women during this time period, and they were bringing women in as much as but it was a very male-dominated film. Here's what they did that was right for me, and I don't remember what it is that we were watching the other day. Oh, I know exactly. We're watching for All Mankind. We're going back and watching that. And at one point, we were watching, and my husband said, "Now, is he the guy that?" And I said, "I don't know. They all look the same to me, and they're all acting the same, and I can't tell. I don't know which astronaut is which. I don't know." And I always, it's funny. I make the comment. I go, because all white men look alike, right? But that's not true. They don't. And what I felt like they particularly did right, somebody paid attention, and I knew exactly, there were like 25 guys you're following that they're taking off and they're in the planes, and you want to know whether they come back.
Right.
And that for me in this series was like living in my bones. Like the planes take off, and they really played with the anticipation and mystery, and that you were experiencing it like the people on the ground, like that boy on the ground who came back. Sometimes often you didn't see what happened, and you were left in the dark, and I thought they were particularly good at that, and I was rooting for people because they were all different.
Yes.
They cast differently, and the characters were different, and it was very clear no two people could be confused with other two people.
This is true.
And so I really got invested in their stories. I was watching it over a weekend, and then I came in here like 2 weeks ago on Monday, and they were talking to me here, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm in a Stalag, and I can't, and I need to get to Denmark," and I was that invested in it.
Wow. Okay. But it's funny, you hit on something that was one of my major complaints about Dunkirk.
Oh.
Because I couldn't recognize everybody in Dunkirk, all the young guys.
Who are they?
Handsome, dark-haired guys. And I'm like, who's who? I don't know. I don't care. Did he make it? Who cares?
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's a really, they did do that very well.
Air, like I didn't necessarily know their names, but I was like, oh my God, the guy with the mustache, is he okay?
Yeah.
And I lived and died and breathed what was happening, and I thought that they were masters. I don't want to give it away, but there's like one point where you're like, I don't know what happened, and they make you wait a long time. Until there's a moment where you go, oh my God. And I would, the people in my house knew, because I was like, oh sweet Jesus.
All right.
So I loved it. I would watch it again.
Yeah.
But it takes this emotional toll on you.
It is. Yeah.
But now I guess I have to go watch Band of Brothers.
You got to watch Band of Brothers. Oh my gosh.
Okay. It's a lot. But, okay. All right. Next one, please. Because we got to hurry.
We have yet another rom-com, Anyone But You, directed by Will Gluck, writer Hannah Walpert and Will Gluck.
There's an example of what I was saying.
Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell, Dermot Mulroney, and Rachel Griffiths are all in this rom-com. It's very loosely based on Much Ado About Nothing, and I did not know that when I watched it, and I still didn't know it by the end of the film, which is not a good thing. Yeah, and I think it made it worse for me that I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Like I kind of should have known that. It's based on Shakespeare's most rom-com-y play, and which I love.
Yeah.
But Powell plays Ben and Sweeney plays B, the two former lovers who have a history, and they deal with that history by hiding their feelings behind snark. Both end up at a destination wedding in Australia, and they snark their way through all the pre-wedding festivities. Ultimately, our two good-looking stars, in my opinion, were just not very likable. Each has successfully stuffed their feelings down in order to avoid being hurt, and you end up with two angry, annoying people who come very close to ruining another couple's wedding. So I was not happy with this, and I like both of these people, and I think they're both very talented. I did not like this, and I would suggest watching David Tennant and Catherine Tate version of Much Ado About Nothing on YouTube. So this was not a favorite of mine. You go for it.
And I was okay with it. Again, my lowered standard for a rom-com, and I realized very quickly.
Did you?
Yes, because they were named Beatrice and Benedict, and they were putting Shakespeare quotes up, so I got it very quickly, and then I was a little bit more invested because I was like, so what are they going to do about this, and what are they going to do about that? And I mean, it's not how I would have done it if I was going to do.
That was a discussion my daughter and I had afterwards. How would you make this better?
Yeah.
Ooh, a lot of ways.
Yeah. And, and it's always like, because you have to do this misdirection about, you've got these two people that should be together but aren't together, and there's a misunderstanding, and how do you make that happen? And I thought that was a little thin, which made it hard for the rest of the movie to work, but I was okay with it. I watched it. There was enough going on that I was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And knowing that it was a Shakespeare spurred me on. I was like, I can't wait to see, and now I'm looking for plot points, and like, oh, okay, interesting that you did that. But not giving any awards. I'm just noticing that Powell is like
he's everywhere.
He's in everything right now because he's about to be in Twister too.
Yeah, he was in Top Gun Maverick. He was in something called The Hitman that I haven't watched yet.
Oh, I watched it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was in there was something else he was in that I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
He's working a lot right now.
He's been around. He's the guy now. He's the guy.
And he's, he's handsome and quirky. He's a little surface for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, Glenn, you got to bring it, honey.
Well, yeah, and I like a more Javier Bardem, Pedro Pascal kind of look than your sort of more all-American looking guy.
Yeah.
That's more my thing. But Sydney Sweeney is really good in other things. In this, I was not. Yeah. I'm not quite enamored with her, but she was in that one we watched, Reality. That was about the she's very good. She's got the acting chops, and she's a pretty lady. So of course, they're like, hey, maybe you can do a rom-com. Yeah. And you know what? I'm probably alone in my dislike of this. I think it was pretty popular.
No, I don't think.
No, I think it was pretty popular. Is what I mean.
Well, but I think the rest of us have a lower standard.
And maybe
for
I've got
the romance
my
things.
bar is too high.
But it's okay. Okay, moving on because we got to get you
moving
out
on.
of here.
Oh yeah, Baby Reindeer. I'm only going to talk about this because our lovely friend Shannon is not wanting to watch this.
I was told that I could not watch this because stuff bothers me.
Stuff bothers her. Baby Reindeer's on Netflix. Creator is Richard Gadd. It stars Richard Gadd and Jessica Gunning. And this series needs all the trigger warnings available. It is not for everyone. But what interested me is that it's based on a true story. The star of the series, Richard Gadd, developed this from his one-man show that he was, I believe, doing at the Edinburgh Festival or in the UK. He plays Donnie Dunn, a struggling stand-up comedian / bartender trying to find his big break. And things take a different direction for Donnie when he takes pity on a woman named Martha who comes into the bar. Martha is played by Jessica Gunning, and he gives her a cup of tea. This small act of kindness results in her coming in daily, sitting in the bar for the entirety of his shift. It's super uncomfortable. He was trying to be kind and it seems to have backfired. But as time passes, there are opportunities for him to stop this uncomfortable friendship, and surprisingly, he doesn't. And at times, he even doubles down for reasons that later become clear, but at the beginning, they are maddening. And I almost gave up on this around the middle of episode 3, but I pushed forward, and I'm glad I did. It's very raw. It's amazing, and it's kind of you've got a ringside seat to trauma. My sister-in-law said it was like sitting in on somebody's therapy sessions, is how she described it. There are some amazing moments that are uncomfortable, but I found it well worth the journey. He explores things that men never talk about. He explores his own brokenness and how it relates to Martha's brokenness. And there's an article that Brandon Towns wrote called The Growing Exploration of Masculinity and Vulnerability in Media. It's on rogerebert.com. And he says that this and some other works might be the ushering in of a new era of male vulnerability. And that reason alone makes me glad that this exists. There's been a lot of hoopla, which is upsetting to me, regarding trying to figure out the identity of this woman. She herself came forward and was interviewed. That was upsetting to me because she clearly has some mental health issues. Yeah. And this was not a documentary. This was his experience. So so all of that's uncomfortable. But I don't know. I think we were talking about who's gonna be nominated at the Emmys. This guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and her, who she's actually in. Jessica Gunning is in something else that people have raved about. One of the British procedural crime things that I've never seen. I don't remember the name of it, but. Anyway, that's my pitch for Baby Reindeer. I know it was not your cup of tea, and that's fine.
Well, I just decided not to watch it.
Yeah.
There's other things that I've watched this month that I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't watched that
Really?
either. Oh, like I'm just going to tell people, I encourage you, do not watch the documentary, Tell Them That You Love Me.
Oh.
Please don't watch that. Please avoid that. Don't watch these things.
Okay.
But if you can handle it, watch Baby Reindeer, but don't watch that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got things we got to get to because we're.
Oh yeah, last one.
Yes.
Last one.
Yes. Unfrosted.
Unfrosted. This was on Netflix, directed by Jerry Seinfeld, written by Jerry Seinfeld, Spike Fairstein, Barry Marder, Andy Robin, starring Jerry Seinfeld, Melissa McCarthy, Jim Gaffigan, Amy Schumer, Hugh Grant, James Marsden, Max Greenfield, Peter Dinklage, and Dan Levy, among many more.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Okay, Jerry Seinfeld loves breakfast. We know this about him.
Yes.
And particularly, he loves sugary, carbo-loaded breakfasts. If you remember the show Seinfeld, Jerry's apartment had cabinets filled with cereal boxes. Yep. With this film, we can see that Jerry has not grown up. This time his fixation is on Pop-Tarts, creates this sort of fantasy world where Post and Kellogg have factories next door to each other and are duking it out, much like Wonka and Slugworth. I mean, it had that kind of high fantasy type feel to it. Mm-hmm. They're competing to create the perfect new breakfast that will appeal to kids. So as we said, right, he starred, wrote, and directed this. The cast is stacked with a who's who of comedy, sprinkled in with a wonderful turn for Hugh Grant as a serial mascot, Tony the Tiger. Hearing his plummy English voice emanating from a ridiculous tiger suit was the highlight of it for me, that I'll tell you. You can probably tell I did not like this. There's not a lot of laughs, ultimately. I felt like Seinfeld is laughing at us, or perhaps laughing at a private joke he has that we will never get. He did this show about nothing, because that's what Seinfeld was called, and it was groundbreaking, but ultimately you weren't supposed to like those characters, and we laughed at their oversimplification of reasons to stop trying to connect with people. Man hands, close talker, no pinkish hue, those were all the kind of little things, and I think Seinfeld's lost touch of who's supposed to be the butt of the joke. Mm-hmm. And it's visually fun but unsatisfying, much like Pop-Tarts in real life. So ask me how I really feel.
Yes, there we go. And I don't disagree. I felt like the title of it should be Too Much Frosting.
Okay.
That it, I think great idea, and I love that Seinfeld at this age has decided that, he wants to try writing and directing a film. Mm-hmm. And I think it's another film that wanted to be It's a Mad, 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 Mad World that didn't. Yeah. I think he was a little bit better at getting them to all be in the same movie, but it was so much fluff. Yeah. It was almost unwatchable.
Yes.
That it was like, it was like, what? And I felt that we were all distracted while we were watching it, and we were like, oh, who are they? I don't really care about anybody. It didn't really, and I think it could have been different. I think it's an interesting story, and I think it needed to be a lot less fluffy.
Yeah.
A lot less sugar. I think a diabetic coma 5 minutes in. Unfortunately, because there's a lot of people in it that I love, and, and I love Seinfeld's humor.
Yeah.
But I think he was too much in charge, maybe.
It needed something, a little more heart. And, I think, there was Sarah, I can't remember her name. Oh, I'm being terrible with names now. Sarah Cooper is her name, I think. She became like a YouTube star. Oh. She was in it, but given nothing to do. I mean, at least some of Amy Schumer was given kind of, over the top things, as was Melissa McCarthy, but Yeah.
Yeah, but if all you have is sugar,
I know.
I mean,
there's no substance. It's not nutritious.
It's not nutritious. Okay, we're really out of time.
We're out of time.
But we wanted to take at least a couple of minutes and talk about, like, because in 2 days the Emmy nominations come out, and when I realized that this morning, I really am trying to remind everybody, because the seasons go weird, that this year, this Emmys is the one that The Bear season 2 is eligible.
Right.
And if anybody within the sound of my voice is somebody who is nominating, I think probably they had to be in by last night, Jamie Lee Curtis needs to get a nomination, or I'm going to throw things.
Yeah.
I might do worse.
I know. Well, and I realized I was mentioning Richard Gadd, but I don't know if Baby Reindeer's eligible. I don't know how the sequence works for the Emmys as well as I do for the Oscars. It's a little more clear cut.
It would definitely be in this one.
Oh, it would?
Because it's
Okay.
from like the end of May, so it would definitely be.
Okay.
It would definitely be. The problem with last year was that it all got wonky because it was delayed because of the strike.
Oh,
so
okay.
So there was a whole delay.
So we're out of sync a little bit.
We're very out of sync.
Okay.
But season 2 of The Bear is eligible, so that's the big one for me that I want to make sure that. But you mentioned Richard Gadd. I think that's probably very likely that'll be nominated.
It's likely he'll be acknowledged. And Capote and the Swans. Capote versus the Swans.
Did you like that?
I did like it.
I couldn't watch more than one episode.
Oh, really? I liked Tom Hollander. I thought he was really good.
I just couldn't do it. Maybe I needed to,
The Crown, they're talking about The Crown possibly for Imelda Staunton, maybe. I don't know. The Crown was like, I don't know.
I didn't love this last season.
No.
I didn't love her.
Yeah.
I don't love her.
No, you don't.
There was that one movie that you loved so much and I didn't love, that you were so disappointed.
Oh.
Wasn't it about the dress, or what? Isn't that the one?
Oh, yes, yeah. Was she in that? That was Leslie
Wasn't
Manville.
she?
Leslie Manville.
Oh, maybe I'm getting them confused.
You're confused. Yeah,
never mind.
Yeah, never mind.
Rosanna Dana says.
No, Imelda Staunton was in the Harry Potter. She was Professor Umbridge.
I just didn't like her as the queen. I love the Claire Foy. There was a surprise emergence of Claire Foy. Claire Foy was the best queen for me. She's my queen forever. But I'm trying to think of like what I absolutely loved this year.
Oh, in
I mean, I
television.
just feel like The Bear season 2.
I know. Jodie Foster in True Detective Night Country.
Oh, stop. Yes.
Yes. And
yes.
I cannot remember the name of the woman that played opposite her.
But
Fabulous.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that show we hung on that on every, and that's not my usual fare, but that was absolutely fabulous.
Really good. And Jodie Foster, my God.
Oh.
I love that.
She's had a year.
She's had a heck of a year.
She was so good in Naiad.
Yes.
So, I guess we'll see. And then hopefully next month we'll talk about what the nominations are. And they said, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I love her too. One of my friends from graduate school, I did a post on Facebook and I said, all right, last year I'd said, well, how did she not get nominated? And then I was reminded that they were still looking at season 1. So I reposted it. My thing came up on Facebook from a year ago and I reposted it and said, she better get nominated.
Yeah.
And a friend from graduate school, we were actors together. He was like, what's your obsession with her? And I was like, oh, get a life. Look at the work. It's
Look
brave.
at her, yeah.
Like the woman is brave in her life and she brings it whenever, I mean, and in season 3, she's pretty fabulous too.
Yeah, I haven't gotten, we're watching The Bear very slowly because it's in my opinion, not a bingeable show.
It's a lot.
Because it's a lot of trauma.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Well, it's like watching people not function well because of trauma is really what it is.
Yeah, but Jamie is fabulous in it. Anyway, all right. Well, that's all we have time for.
That's all we have time for. I have to run.
Yes, you got to go. But thank you, guys. Let me just tell you briefly that tomorrow on Ask Dr. Doreen, we're going to talk about helping our children to be job ready from a very early age. I got the idea from Moira. Then on Wednesday, we have a really fantastic self-advocate. Daniel, I'm going to say his Duvani, is going to be with us. Somebody who got a late diagnosis. He's a public speaker now. We're going to talk with him. On Thursday, we're doing a best of Autism-live, talking about autism diets. And on Friday, we're doing a best of Ask Dr. Doreen about how to, there's always that issue about disciplining individuals with ASD. Like when is it too much? Like when are you disciplining somebody for something that they're not capable of doing? Or when are you letting somebody run riot for things that they can do? And what is that? So that's, we've done that show in the past and we're re-airing it on Friday. I think it's a really good show. And thank you also Autism Journey with Elijah for hanging with us for the day.
Yes.
And it was great to meet you in person. All right, you guys, we'll see you tomorrow for Ask Dr. Doreen. And I have to warn you, it is our last live Ask Dr. Doreen for a hot minute because she's away and then I'm away. So you should tune in tomorrow. Things will happen. All right, much love to all of you. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug for me and one for you too.
Yeah, keep watching.
Bye-bye for now.